video number 2 per se. Yeah, it's to the left, but now we gotta do it to the right. Now, Apple in this case. What's the value of Apple in the magnitude of stating that less is more and more is less? We have nano-technology for that little bitty MP3 player that you created, but what is the battery life on that in comparison to the iPhone itself? You have to go bigger to get more battery? Really? How does that work? Wouldn't it not be actually more cost efficient to have a smaller device and longer battery time, since the display visual is actually quote unquote smaller and the quote unquote quality of picture we're potentially suffering from? But yet still, what is the issue with that? We have to buy the most expensive one in order to get at least potentially 3 operations handled. One is the user actually understanding what less battery and more battery is. 2, the interface or iOS itself understanding that. And then 3, the downloaded stuff that we actually present. And I'm still going, but I only gave you 3. Those are the 3 main issues, because literally each software has its own quote unquote battery life itself in running the program, right? That's basic coding. 4, what else? The open network that we're potentially exposing it to. And then 5, the new iPhone quote unquote has 2 lines. Now imagine what you're actually processing in this case. Countless. But literally, what's the value of them actually coming out with that nice little screen on the quote unquote, how can I say, protector on your computer itself? Because you can say laptop, computer, tablet, the list goes on and on, but we all forget about the one little simple thing, the phone itself, right? Shh, crazy. Now, what's the difference with that situation? People have emergencies now. They got to go to the Apple store and get their phone fixed. And then they still got to fly out potentially today or tomorrow, because today is Sunday. And then tomorrow's the next business day, because they fly out today, later on, because they're still packing their stuff up and basically going to do TSA processing. So, what's the next issue? Customs. It may get to the airport and it may pass through our customs, but yet still, they still have to go home, eat their food, and then hopefully their systems don't basically test, like, how can they say, when you go to Mexico and you drink the water when you're not supposed to. That's another issue. So now you potentially understand why we have so many quote unquote variants, or is that the ending or beginning of the process? Who knows? Because literally you still can catch COVID even if you take the injections. That's a great question, right? But y'all all wonder why Mr. 229 is on that bridge. Great question. I just told you. You didn't even think of the order of operations in this case. It's just that simple. Microbiology rules the world, and depending on climate and back to the real estate question, location, we go back to the original equation, which is accounting. Money plus the things that we use to choose by ourselves, which is the liabilities that we still have to pay for every day. And then what is that? The owner's equity itself, because when we have to check ourselves in the hospital because we're sick, who actually has to pay that bill? Us, or if we're a government employee, we go through a different screening process potentially. I say we because at one point in time, I was a TRICARE kid. Am I still now? But no, but at that moment in time too as well, I did go through that processing. Great thing, right? They moved it to 26, but literally I should say they should move it to 26 when literally the person is actually disabled and they're just running a cross-reference more so. But even if they are running a cross-reference, the entity itself should never experiment with the drugs that they actually use or even have a notion of even knowing what those drugs are, because literally before they actually go into a civilian situation, it should just basically be omitted. You get it? Because literally when you have the wrong doctor, they like to do the wrong things and just basically exacerbate and make things 10 times more than what it actually be and add compound interest, because they're the ones that actually are the pharmaceutical company themselves. Are they not doctors? Great question. Or is just a relay of what? Networking? To each is his own. Long story short, what's the value of studying science if you don't understand what recessive genes are? And dichotomous tree, because everybody in any country has a dichotomous tree. Anybody who's human has a dichotomous tree, and anybody who's basically a mammal or any species. Therefore, we go back to the further principle of what? Darwin's rule of theory. Only the strong will survive. But yet still, who was the most susceptible to die so early during COVID? The old and basically the infants, just because of the fact that literally their system couldn't basically immunocompromise quickly enough, or it did immunocompromise too quickly, and guess what happened? It actually exacerbated or made it basically fruitless. It just basically immune to it. So, what is your purpose now for today? I hope that you value the education that you're actually being presented domestically, for when you go home, you have a new thing to learn. The ecosystem. Because there's still people driving when literally they should be on potentially public transportation for the week, or vice versa. But literally during the week, you actually should be on public transportation, and during the weekend, you should be driving. Why? Because that's when it's most traffic and most convenient, or is it either way? Most people are home during the weekend, especially if it's cold. But imagine what the summer's gonna bring. Right now, is it summer? Yeah, I'm hot as hell right now, but you wouldn't even read it. I'm numb to it. But either way, what's the value of that vehicle with that nice little $5 a gallon that you're putting your fuel injection through hell about? Priceless. Why? Because literally, how do you know the originating source? Again, 1, 2, we have COVID, and 3, how your body's gonna respond to it. You're emitting different fumes, and people's DNA is basically mutated because there's so many different variants. It is countless. So, what's the value of education? You can rush through it, but I'll give you the old terminology. Tortuga y hare. Or, how do you spell that? The tortoise and the hare? Because does not the tortoise have hair? No tortoise actually has hair at all, potentially. But at the same time period, the rabbit does. How fast are you gonna move now? You figure it out.